Public Utilities Committee meeting of Tuesday, November 17th, 2015. Public comments we have on the agenda, but we don't seem to have any public, so we'll move on to review and possible approval of the draft minutes of the meeting of October 20th, 2015. Has everybody had a chance to look those over? Did you didn't have any till right now?
Oh, the minutes, I wasn't at the meeting, so I.
Oh, all right, so.
I abstained from the.
I guess
the
that's
vote.
right, yeah, I remember that.
I had just one misspelling on it. And item number 4 on the first page, the second full paragraph there, second line says property and go due west, that should be DUE, D-O.
I had that same one.
That's all I had.
That's all I had. Does anybody else have anything? Do you have anything? No? Okay, then.
I'd like to make one correction
Okay.
on the second page, on the second paragraph. By correcting the problem, it would help. Can we turn that could help or should help? Would is very strong.
Could help, you want? Is that what you want?
Yeah, it could help.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yep.
Okay then, Craig? Somebody like to make a motion then to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes with 2 changes made today.
And
I'll
a second?
second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, let's see. The next item on the agenda is the discussion regarding Holscher Road and lift station number 5.
And I'll just update what's going on there. Right now, they've, as you know, as we've talked about before, Force Main's been in for a while now. They went through, they dug the hole, put all the cylinders in place, if you would, and it's quite impressive. You stand over top of it and look down because it's about 35 foot deep. Looks like a missile silo. They went and put the lid on the top of it. They backfilled behind it. They're in the process of putting the foundations in for the building itself. We've been working with Alliant because Alliant has to run 3-phase over to it, and we're probably at the point right now we're not sure. We just heard from Alliant again this afternoon. Eric signed a proposal that they just sent to us yesterday, and signed that, got back to them. They're concerned that they're going to hit their winter construction costs, so we'll find out what options we can have there, and if they got to do something temporarily off a pole, or if they will still continue. We got to find out what that difference is. But the goal is still have the lift station operational by the beginning to our middle part of February.
Oh, okay. So what did you, backing up, what did you say about Alliance, something about their,
What they're going to do is they want to bury the 3-phase going to the lift station itself.
okay,
And they'll be coming off of, I believe they're coming off of MN, for that. And so it's just, they still have some things that need to be done, and they're concerned about the winter construction.
oh, okay.
And there's additional cost.
Okay,
Additional cost if they have to do that during the winter time.
yeah, I see.
So we've got to weigh out what that additional cost is going to be, and doing something temporarily versus just biting the bullet and paying to do it now.
Okay,
And that's
So-
dependent on the weather over the next several weeks. too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So but December 1st is usually when their winter rates kick in. So we got to see what's going on.
so it doesn't matter if it's warm in December, they go into their winter rates.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Mark does.
Yes. Those things have changed since I retired on October 1st, but yes.
Oh, I think it was. I think October 2nd. Yeah, but no, we're going to try to talk with the field rep. In fact, Brian Brick is going to call him this afternoon. I talked to Brian, I don't know, 4 o'clock, right before I left, and he was going to call him and see if he could try to negotiate something with him.
Oh, okay, all right. That's it for that then? And
Yes.
you want to talk about Broadhead MN and the Elvin construction projects?
Yep, the Public Works Committee last week had a public meeting, with neighbors for Holscher Road on the tail end of that, the Public Works meeting reconvened without the public, although a couple residents stayed and talked about the Broadhead MN project, coming from Holscher down to Marsh Road. And got some good input from a couple of the residents that stayed there. And, so consequence to that, we went out and Brian has looked at some of the requests that they have made, on some modifications that they could do to that, for that project. Eric and I went out there and walked part of the project to see if there's some stuff that we could implement to try to accommodate the residents that live right along there. And so the goal is, if Town and Country can get everything rolled back up in all the requests that the residents made and look at some of the requirements that we've got to implement. Because right after we met, I guess that was Tuesday night, Public Works meeting. And then last Friday, Brian Berquist and I met with Dane County also, and we sat with Pam Dunphy and with Gregor Peterson, just to make sure we weren't missing anything, with what Dane County wanted. So the goal is for Town and Country to try to come back in December so we can invite the public for some additional comments, because we'd like to go out for bids sometime in January, if possible. Worst case, the beginning of February. We'll try to make that happen.
What about the issue that we talked about once before about having both Holscher and been disrupted at the same time, and how that would affect?
What we're going to do is we're going to bid it as one package, because we think there would be some economy of savings there just because of how much work is going to be going on. And we're hoping to try to stage it somehow to where at least one of the roads will still be passable while the other one is, pretty much disrupted. Because as you know, on Holscher Road, we're going to be putting in water and sewer.
Mm-hmm.
And also on MN, we're going to be replacing the water from Marsh up to Running Deer. So both of those are pretty disrupted. So we're going to try to make that happen as best as possible. And whoever will try to spell it out in the specifications that's what they need to do. And unless they come back and they just would provide us some type of tremendous savings,
Mm-hmm.
The goal would be to
Yeah.
at least keep one of them open during that time period.
Was that one of the concerns of the group or not?
The Public Works?
Yeah.
The committee, you mean, or the residents?
The residents, yeah.
Nope, their concern was mainly the sidewalk. That's because the slope of a couple of the houses, well, one of the houses, the driveway that goes in there is pretty steep. And trying to get down there and where they'd fit the sidewalk in. And then a couple of the residents on both sides, because the one resident was at the meeting, the other one wasn't, and called me afterwards. And it's the back of their property that they have sidewalk. So how are they would they be required to go down and clean that sidewalk off?
Mhm.
And it's like, sorry, we've got other places here in the village that are the same way.
Okay.
So that was probably their biggest, and the parking. Because similar to Holscher, we were going to design it to where there was sidewalk on both sides, curb and gutter, 2 parking lanes, 2 bicycle lanes, and 2 driving lanes. They requested that we not have parking from Marsh to, help me out to remember which street it was that we stopped it at. Was it?
So as far as Deer, was it?
I forget. Yeah,
Well,
maybe down
basically the
to,
homes that just had the back again, on
Yeah.
the north side of the road. Actually, on both sides of the
On
road.
both sides of the
north
road
and
they
south
did.
there, where there's no side yard or front yard facing the road. Is there a need for parking then on that street? Is it just wide?
You're talking about Holscher Road.
Yeah, which one are you
no,
talking about?
this is Broadhead.
On Broadhead, on
On
N.
Broadhead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there'll be parking on Holscher both sides.
Oh,
But
okay.
on
Yeah.
Broadhead, there'll only be parking,
Where on Broadhead is there?
Houses
Houses with the back.
That's where I was trying
That-
If
to.
you start at
Chestnut?
Holscher.
Holscher and you work your way to the west, say the cemetery, they're talking about doing a pullout on the west side of the driveway for some parking there. And as you move forward, then there is the retention pond. It's you can't see it from Broadhead. It's through the shrubbery there.
Mhm.
But there's a retention pond and 2 homes on the other side of that. The next home does have a backyard that goes all the way to to Broadhead. On the south side of the street there, that's all Gannon's property, the apartments, and that's lower, so there won't be any need for parking there because you couldn't access those homes in any case, the backyard's
Yeah.
there. Then on the north side again, it's the farmhouse.
Yeah.
That does
Right.
connect on both sides there. And then on that side of the road, on the north side of the road, beyond the farmhouse to the west, there are duplexes that have the backyard again, all the way until you get to what's the first road?
Glenway.
Glenway.
Anyway, yeah, that's what I was.
And
trying
then
to
on the
think
south
of.
side from Tom's property, the duplexes, almost all the way down that road, maybe even to Osborne's, the side yards of properties, there isn't any frontages
yards,
there.
right.
So that the consideration was if you narrow it down, you get slower traffic patterns perhaps in this broader area for parking.
So that sidewalk that comes up Holster and then goes down Running Deer wouldn't extend down MN any further?
Yes.
down Running?
Yeah,
Is that
it would
what
be
you're
sidewalk
saying?
on both sides.
It would stop-
Sidewalk both
okay.
sides.
I think I have the picture now. It's hard to picture it. Does that answer your question, Steph?
Yeah, I didn't get it either, now I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've driven it frequently, but until we actually walked it to get a better sense of, oh yeah, here, this home is here.
Yeah, you don't see it when you drive
I was
by.
gonna say, I must have been driving by houses for a long time not thinking that was the back of the house.
Yeah, exactly. So,
What about Alvin then?
Alvin, we're planning on doing the water main in that one, when we do the water main on Broadhead Street.
Okay.
So that should just run in unison. Like I said, there's gonna be a lot of roads tore up. There's gonna be from the Silvico, we're doing the water main in Silvico, from the railroad tracks to the Terminal Drive. So we're gonna have a lot of roads tore up next year.
I'll have to find another way to get out of town.
That's correct. We're gonna let you out.
stay.
You gotta
Yeah,
stay.
stay.
Shop local.
Okay, I guess we're down to number 6, which is the budget. And I'll let Eric and Kelsey take over.
Well, Kelsey and I had a conversation, when we looked at the general fund budget, and of course, the moment the budget's approved, it's wrong, as things constantly change. So, as for these literally being hot off the copier, I was making changes up to the very last moment, and we're hoping for your recommendation for approval that we can take to the village board at this point in time. Because we're aware you haven't had a whole lot of time to review the updated language, and we're certainly here, and I think being short enough agenda that we can really dive into each and every one of the topics that you would like to do. But I'll just do a summary, and then you can dive in with some of the deeper details. At this point, based on the end of year 2014 audit, we're not making any recommendations for a simple rate case for water utility at this point in time. I think the rate of return was high enough. Still not as high as the maximum, but I think it's still doing relatively decent
Okay.
for the water utility.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. The budget for the stormwater utility is, the expenses are basically the same as the last year, so we're not suggesting an increase in stormwater. There is the 8.64% increase for the sewer utility for MMSD charges, and so we'll be recommending an 8.64% increase to equalize that, so that that utility is in our.
I need to ask a question on
Mhm.
that. That goes through my mind every so often when I have nothing else to do. If MMSD raises their rates, for example, 8%, let's say, then we raise our rates 8%. Isn't that is that wrong? Because it's only that one line item that is increased by
It's an
8%.
expense, it's not any return or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, so it seems like we've done that every year.
No, we haven't, we've done less
Yeah.
than that
Yeah.
historically. We've done
Have
enough
we?
just to cover that. I'm just saying, we didn't raise the whole sewer rate by if there was a 8% increase on that,
So
we
you're saying.
raised the rate 5% or whatever it took,
Yeah,
just to cover that.
that
So
8%
more-
on that
yeah.
line item. Well, that's my question, yeah. We need to make sure that that 8% or whatever it is doesn't go across the board for the
Right.
whole sewer rate, because it's just that one line item.
Right.
Correct, and it, in my opinion, it's relatively close, because if you look at the first page under water sales, we certainly have, sorry, not water sales, sewer.
Sewer,
Um,
sewer billings,
Which
Is
page
that
are
what
we
you're
on
talking
here?
about?
Catch up
Yeah,
with you.
one.
where are we?
Which one?
Sewer
For
billings,
stormwater?
Which
No,
page number?
sewer
Third
revenues.
one?
was this the first?
Sewer sales, there it is, it's on the top
Okay.
page. So all the revenues for water and sewer are on the first page, the top third. The tab sewer sales, then, you can see, the measured rates, 787,000 is based on actuals. So that's what the revenues that we intend to bring in for that. Of course, that sewer revenues cover more than just the RMSD sewer charges. I know that's kind of the point you're saying, is if we increase our rates by the same amount, are we really, equalizing that? I think that when you look at the next section, which begins under personnel expenses, the sewer transport, sewer maintenance, sewer billings. Sewer transport, while increases 8.64%, that's the 557,000. The other items, we're looking at those expenses, and we're looking at total expenses for sewer of 1.89 million.
I'm completely lost. I don't know where you are.
Yeah,
I
well,
know you're on this
what I'm trying to
page.
pull out is to
No,
show
I thought
that
it was this one.
the
The
Yeah,
revenues
it's
from
got the
sewer
thing on it.
Oh,
are very close to balancing with the expenses of the sewer, even though that one line item is the most affected by the rate increase. Does that make sense?
Well, I think I know what
We
you
have-
said, but I'm.
Right.
Yeah, but there must be another, so you're saying, I think what you're saying is, you need to increase it, I'm gonna use 8% again for an example, to cover other things, not just that.
Correct,
So what are they?
correct.
That's what I want.
And we go into the detail as to how the budgets for utilities, which of course is water and sewer, equal the expenses that way. If there, as we go through, a room to decide not to increase 8.64%, that will adjust our revenue line item of 787 and the other items there. But for combined utilities, we have one utility, even though we have two utilities within our utility fund. Combined revenues is just over 2 million, and combined expenses is just under 2 million. There's a difference of 85,000 right now for all the utilities. And I think Kelsey can get into detail then as to what that means and what are the major changes that we've identified this year and what's different in this year's budget than you may have seen in the past.
Okay. Maybe that will then flush that out, I don't know.
I got, I'm sorry,
No.
question on that sewer, as long as we're there. I'm trying to look at the 2015 budget on that, is it residential measured service? We had a budget of 837,000 in 2015. Is that what the budget was?
Yeah.
And now the budget in 2016, we're reducing?
And I'm gonna fess up, I don't know all the ins and outs yet of
Okay.
water and sewer revenue. So how I came up, the last time we met, the only thing I presented was the expense side.
Yeah,
Okay.
And so this time I was like, well, geez, I need to lay out something for the revenue. So with the minimal knowledge I have, what I did was I said, how are we trending through October? And I looked at the monthly actions and then said, this is kind of how we're trending on a monthly basis. To forecast forward, I'm going to take year-to-date 2015 actuals and extrapolate November, December to come up with an annual total. And that's all I did for 2016 budget. If there are, more intelligence to go into the revenue numbers, I'm all ears. But that's my limited base knowledge on how the revenue side works. That's how I came up with my revenue number.
so what number were you looking at, Craig?
Well, I was looking at the
Sales residential?
2015
Right.
budget
right.
on that measured
508.
service.
And it doesn't look like we're gonna hit it.
No, that's
That's
why I'm trying to get at, maybe that's why we need the 8% increase across the, I don't know, from a revenue side, we're not
Yeah,
close to
I
that. I'm trying to
understand.
understand from the budget
It's just like, is there
2015.
something in water that's doing it as opposed to sewer?
Like
Well,
a
I think
drier-
what-
a drier,
Yeah,
Yeah, that
summer.
could
Yep,
be.
we had, there wasn't a lot of watering that went on this summer.
I know.
So that's why
Yeah.
revenues are down.
okay. That
That seems
explains something to
Yep.
me, yeah.
way down.
That's where,
So that actual number, that 496,000 is
That's-
through the end of October?
That's through August, so you can
Oh,
see at
through
the
August.
top, that's
Oh,
through
oh, okay,
August.
okay.
But when I came up with my 2016 budget number, I looked at how are we trending through October, and then said, okay, I'm gonna add on November and December, that's an annual number, and that's just what I'm gonna use for 2016 until I get better guidance as to
Mhm.
how to update that.
Okay.
Okay.
The measured service residential is about a 6.1% increase from 2014 actual to 2016 budget, which would have been about a 3% increase year by year. So we increased that the budget to 837,000 for 2015 budget from the 741,000 in 2014. And when I just ran the calculation to get to the 2016 budget, it's about 6% above 2014, just that portion of the revenue.
Okay.
So if we're looking at a rate just on the residential side, you'd be looking at a 3% increase approximately versus the 8.64%. That does not hold true though for the commercial and public authority sewer or unmetered sales.
I guess I would have a problem increasing sewer rates because water revenues were not, that we didn't have the sales, you know what I mean?
But
If-
that's what was linked to the sewer. I mean, it's based on the
Based
need
on
of
that.
water.
But then
use,
our,
but then
but
that's
then
the
our
revenue
sewer
was
charges,
down
yeah,
Mhm.
would be down
Okay.
too. The revenue would be down, right?
on the sewer side.
On both, yeah.
Yeah. and MMSD's jacking theirs up, so we're getting
Yeah, I
it
know.
from both sides.
So the,
Well, I'm not arguing that we
Oh, no.
don't need an increase. I'm
Yep.
just arguing how we figured it.
Yeah, understand.
And I guess the intent at this point is, with your recommendation for the board to approve the operating budgets for this, based on that, then the hope is in December to review with the auditors if a rate suggestion is, a rate increase is the suggestion, and that would go on within December or January, the fee schedule increase that happens at the end of the year.
Well, I know we have to approve both, and my question is,
Right.
I guess, time-wise, because, you know, I know Kelsey didn't know that we needed to see this before tonight, but we kind of did. I mean, in my mind, I would have liked to seen it ahead of time. So timing-wise, does this have to go to the board at the next board meeting?
No.
Can go following that. But we don't meet again before that, but we could always, if we,
does the budget here have the rate increase or not?
No, what the budget here is we're generating the revenues necessary to balance. Okay, and it's an increase over the previous year, but it's not tied to a flat 8.64%,
Okay.
which is what we've done in the past, which is why if you look at the 2014, 2015, under sewer sales, measured service residential, which is what the sixth one down, seventh down, I'm not sure. In 2014, actual 741,921. The 2015 budget was 837, and that was a pass-through of the full, I think that was a 7% increase
something like that.
last
I
year
don't
as
remember,
well.
But it was the full.
MMSD, the
Yeah.
full pass-through. And so instead this year of saying, here's the full 8.64%, looking at a rate increase, we know that we have to account for that increase in expenses. Instead, what we're saying is, based off of that, based on actuals of this year and then the monthly trend, is what is under the comments here, what we expect to get in 2015, budget on that, and does it balance? And so that's where the number is. So where the flat rate commercial, the measured service commercial, all very close, the biggest difference is in the measured service residential. And that's where if you back it up to 2014 actual, to 6% increase from 2014, is what we're suggesting a budget for. That's not a rate increase necessarily, that's a percentage increase for that line item. That's what generates enough that, based on actuals, based on what we expect to get for the next 2 months, what we anticipate for 2016 being necessary to collect in those revenues in order to balance.
Okay.
Okay.
And then what is the increase? Is it 8% or is it 8 point something?
8.64.
8.64%.
Oh, so it is the 8.64, okay.
And that line item, because that's the expense that we know about, but halfway down the page, sewer transport, third line down from there, that is the 8.64% increase in quarterly charges. That's the expense. The top part, we're looking at revenues.
I have some other questions on this, where it was, when I printed it off, it was highlighted. And I know part of what this is about, but it's just the terminology. I guess it's under sewer administration. And then again, where did I see it? Over water administration. And that's the retirement of Jerry Ryder, not Jerry Ryder, is it Jerry Ryder?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
got the right guy, okay.
Yep.
It's not pensions we're talking about.
It isn't, no, it is
Okay.
not, and that's it's a bad account name description, it is not pensions. What we are
Right.
talking about is the employee retiree health insurance benefit that gets paid out, it's a sick accrual.
The sick leave,
Yeah.
sick leave accrual.
Yeah, that
Okay,
they
that's
can
what I
use to
figured
pay
it
for
was.
health
Yeah,
insurance
okay.
premiums, yeah.
So when it says, I'm having trouble reading these.
I'm sorry, it's very
That's
small,
okay,
I know.
5,000 Rider, 10,000
Sinking fund, yeah, that's
Okay,
kind of confusing.
Yep,
You
so
wanna explain?
I've learned a little bit about how this all works in the past couple weeks. So with the retiree health insurance, so the general fund accounting is different than the utility fund accounting.
Okay.
Utility fund is just like your regular private
enterprise fund,
sector,
yeah.
net income, all that. General fund is not, and so when I called the auditors and asked them a few questions about how we account for retiree health insurance. So in the utility fund, there is a liability on the balance sheet with some money set aside for, for this expense. On the cash side, there is zero at the pool that has been set aside to pay it. All right, so the idea here was that Jerry's going to retire in early January, and the estimated payout is around $40,000 for that. The utility fund, so water, sewer, stormwater, based on the current allocation of his salary is 12%, 12%, 12%. So it's about $5,000 that the utilities are going to have to cover for that. The liability in the balance sheet, there's about $56,000 that's there right now. I don't know what that number is made up of. In other words, I don't know if, according to the audit, the auditors say they book a liability based on vested accounts, right? So there's a few that are going to be retiring in the coming years. There's not enough there currently to cover all that. So I don't know if they're using a probability allocation
I
where
think that's kind of what.
yeah. So what I'm kind of suggesting is that there appears to be some money in the budget. So I put $5,000 in there to cover Jerry, and then I put another chunk in there if you were thinking about setting up actually a sinking fund to actually have the cash set aside to pay
For other ones.
for future ones,
For
to
future
start
ones.
building that cash amount up.
Now, this is different than the other fund that we're talking about in the general fund.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is
Yeah.
absolutely
All right,
correct.
so I'm
On the
sure.
general fund side, it's almost the exact opposite. We have cash set aside at the pool for
Right.
that expense, but there's no liability on the balance sheet. So when we pay it out, we have to take the hit for that expense. In my private sector mind, I was thinking there would have been a liability set
Set up.
aside and we could have relieved the liability, but that is not the case. We have to take the hit for that expense when we pay it out, which can be very significant.
Just a general fund expense, so.
Yeah.
Now, some of his would be from the general fund, wouldn't it? I mean, wasn't he paid, yeah, from public works?
That's correct.
Yep.
So how much of that 40 is coming from the general fund?
Well, at least half.
Half, yeah, that's what I'm
Mhm.
thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the rest would be coming from the utilities.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what, Eric and I have been talking about, and Eric had a couple really good suggestions, Plan A and Plan B. So I kind of did a look forward to the rest of the year, and it looks like we're going to be under budget for 2015 in the general fund. So you'd suggest let's try to pay it out in 2015 and fund it. I mean, he's retiring January 4th.
Oh, yeah.
There's no reason we can't write the check on December 31st and fund it, and so it doesn't hose our 2016 budget. So I think that's a plan of attack that we'll take. And then the other Plan B is I have a question out to the auditors on another way to deal with this on the go forward, and we
Yeah.
can maybe update you at the next board
Okay.
meeting and let you know how
That's
that
fine.
came out. So
Okay.
so
Sounds
that's,
like a plan.
I put that in there as just a topic of discussion, and let's see what you think about that.
Okay. What else do we need to know?
The only other things that's changed on the expense side for the utility fund is, and this was another catch that Eric had, was under the first page, far left, where it says miscellaneous sewer, and there's a taxes line down there. That was FICA taxes. And I've budgeted for FICA, obviously elsewhere in the budget, so we did reduce that $8,612 to zero because I've covered it elsewhere in the budget.
So I've got this 8612 here, that should
At
be
zero.
zero?
And it is zero on your new copy that we just
Oh.
handed
Oh,
out
all
today.
right. Okay, this is.
That was an
updated.
11th hour catch,
Okay,
so.
all right.
Where was that budgeted before? That's maybe where I'm confused. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's always,
I was gonna say, Kelsey, that this committee hasn't really seen what we've done now by pulling out personnel expenses.
we talked
whereas
about it.
Yeah, I
the two board
presented
members
it.
have. Okay.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the last meeting, so I put, kind of what we talked about before at the last meeting was, in some of these accounts, we were putting not only payroll costs, but other vendor costs as well. So when you're looking at your actuals and you're doing an analysis of budget to actual, you're kind of comparing apples to apples and oranges, as opposed to saying, here's my payroll costs, here's my outside vendor costs, so on and so forth. So from a budgetary purpose, I put all of the salaries and the fringe and the social security taxes up here for budget. So we can do a good analysis throughout the year where I can tell Alan, hey, here's where you're at on the budget. You've got $5,000 left under maintenance, sewer collections. Well, before, that had payroll and other vendor costs flowing through it. Now, from a reporting perspective for the PSC, I'm gonna have to take these amounts and put them where they belong for that
Yeah.
report. But for our own internal budgeting purposes, it'll be easier to track, hey, how are we doing on an ongoing basis?
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, do the account numbers tie out to what the PSCW has too? That's maybe where I'm a little trying to understand that. Do our account numbers, when you go through and you do the annual reports and they have their, different accounts, is there a key in our account numbers that tie out to the PSCW account numbers?
Well, for one thing, I think the auditors do the PSC
Okay.
report.
Right.
They've never been done
No.
in-house here. And whether our numbers correspond to the or to the PSC chart of accounts, I don't know.
Yeah,
I know they don't exactly do for our chart of accounts, but again, as Mary Patty had said, the auditors,
They do.
as
They
part
do
of
all
our
that.
annual cost, they'll submit those and stand behind what's submitted,
Yep.
so it's,
And I asked them before I did it this way, I said, and she said, you can budget however you
Mhm.
want, but when we do the report, we have to take those they have to go into what they were actually working on. We can't just have a line item that says salaries. So I'll have to help them at the end of the year, do a breakout here. Here's what the guys actually worked on. This is where these numbers go.
I have one more question, and that's when we went through the general fund budget and we talked about the interest on the debt. Where is that in here? I'm sure it's here, but.
It is. So when you flip the page, the very first number at the top, that 32,000, that's the interest for sewer for the 2015 debt issuance.
I don't know if I'm on the right page. You
So
can
take
flip
this
it.
packet, Mary
Yeah,
Pat, the one I
and
handed out.
flipped it. Okay,
Oh,
Second page,
all right.
very
Where is
top right,
Oh, right here. 32, okay,
Yep.
321, okay.
And then if you go down on the water side, that's the very last number on that same page, the
Okay.
38,000.
38, all right, and then the stormwater is.
Yep, and I
okay.
have checked that like 4 times, just to make sure I got it.
Yeah, that was a question that we had in the general fund, was it all accounted for, so that, and the utility was paying quite a large bit of it.
So as of right
Utilities.
now, the interest payment is listed separately from the previous interest payments, the 2011 debt issuance.
Yeah.
Intentionally, so they can be separated and show
Right.
what those are. So if you're confused as to that is why. So the first pages are the budget. There's narrative behind that, and you click through that. There's another budget sheet 2/3 of the way through that is, or almost near the end. The stormwater utility has their budget sheet as well, with the narrative that stormwater narrative that follows that.
So you're saying, I think, is there anything else you want to tell us about this budget tonight?
If you want to flip to the stormwater budget, that's about halfway through. I'm just going to maybe touch on a couple things
Okay.
here in case it comes up as you take the packet home.
Is it beyond some of the narrative?
It is. There's utility budget, utility narrative, then it's stormwater budget.
Oh, I got it, okay. Okay. Yep,
Okay, so a couple changes on this budget from what you've seen before. So you'll note that we loaded the 2014 actuals, so you have that in as a comparative. To get this budget to balance as close to zero as possible, I did apply fund balance, and I changed that number from $10,000 to $30,000. So you should take note of that. That was a change. The other change was, again, the retiree health insurance. I put in $10,000 for stormwater. The other thing, it was just kind of a learning thing for me today as I was reviewing the audit and working again on the stormwater utility fund budget. You'll notice that in the 2015 budget, if you look almost all the way down the page on 2015, you'll see that they budgeted for principal in the budget. Now, but you'll notice that the 2014 actuals are 0 and 2015 actuals are 0. Again, this is enterprise accounting for the stormwater utility. So when you actually pay your principal payment, you're reducing your debt on the balance sheet. It's not an income statement expense. So I'm assuming they're doing it this way because you're budgeting for cash. What am I gonna spend, whether it's for principal payments or assets or whatever? That's what I need to cover essentially with all of our billing. So that was a little bit confusing for me at first. It's like, why is there a principal payment budgeted on the income statement here? And that's the only conclusion I came to, is that we're budgeting for cash, and that's why it's here. But you'll never see it as an actual, because when we pay the principal, it's gonna reduce the debt on the balance sheet. It's not gonna show up as an expense here.
what do you mean by budgeting for cash? I'm missing.
Okay, so again, look at your 2015 budget.
Yeah.
Right?
There's nothing.
You'll see $85,000 principal payment there,
Oh, yeah.
okay? You'll never see an actual equal to $85,000, because when we paid that principal payment, it hit the balance sheet. It
Okay.
didn't hit the income statement,
Okay,
okay? So I'm assuming that's budgeting, we're budgeting this way because we want to make sure we generate enough cash to
okay.
cover that principal payment. But it'll hold true for next year as well. I put in the principal payment in the income statement, but next year it's going to hit the balance sheet. It's
Mhm.
not going to hit the income
Income
statement,
statement.
just so you know that.
okay.
And the same with, you can see I pointed out the street sweeper. Under 2014 actuals, we had small capital and $189,000 item there, and I was like, what is
Yeah.
that? And so it was the street sweeper, and we budgeted for it in the income statement, but it actually is a balance sheet
Yeah.
item. So it was just a bit of an education for me as to why are we budgeting
Why
this
are we
way?
doing this?
Yeah.
Okay, I get
So
it.
just so you know, that's what some of my comments are, is talking about that.
Okay,
The other thing is the 20,000 for the street sweeper. I don't see that there ever was a sinking fund set up at the pool There's no money there for the street sweeper. I've tied out every single sub-account on the utility funds pool to the balance sheet here. I can account for it all, but there is no sub-account called street sweeper or replacement or anything like that. And it does not look like it was, funded in 2014. So,
When did we?
I don't think it was in 2014, because that's when we bought
That's
the
when we
street
bought
sweeper.
the new one.
So we didn't put any in the year that we bought it.
okay.
Yeah.
All right,
They
so
had it
that's something
previous
new I
years.
should
Yeah.
Previous
just
years we
set it
had.
up this year
15
then.
should set
Yeah.
up then.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask when
Yep.
we did that,
No, for my time,
Change up.
because did you have an account billed
Yeah,
up to 200,000
yes.
Yes.
Yep.
spend cash for? Because that sub-account doesn't exist. So we couldn't
Well,
reload that yet in
yeah,
2015.
redo it, because we used it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And so should I just go ahead and do that? Should I set
Yeah.
up the sub at the pool and then get the money in there?
I would
and
say
Get
yeah.
that done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing I want to point out on the very top line, the stormwater utility, the user charges. Again, the user charge is staying the same, the stormwater utility. But it's based on number of new homes that would generate that increase there. Just so you're aware of that. So the charges are increasing, it's not based on rate increase, it's based on
We're
increased
gonna
number
get
of
more,
homes.
the ones that we have now?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So we did have new construction during this year.
oh, yeah, quite a bit. I guess I would like to hold off any recommendation of the board on this.
Can we
until-
discuss one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Under the stormwater utility expenses page, you get the stormwater salaries. It's this page, and it's an allocation of people's time, employees' time. I'm wondering if it's still appropriate to have the village administrator allocating 12% of salary time to that. That works out to 5 hours a week. That might have been more appropriate when we were actually building stormwater facilities and stuff like that. But I'm not sure how you can justify 5 hours a week for the stormwater utility on that. Unless you're really busy with it, Eric, I don't know. Did that guy come in
Well,
last
depends on the
month?
week.
Who sets it? Isn't it the board set that? Anyway, that's kind of a question I always had, was because,
Who does the allocations?
well, yeah, the percentages, I think
I think just roll forward from year to year.
yeah, well, I know, that's what I'm saying, it was,
I don't think we officially set them. I think
Yeah,
Eric
just
just
factor in that.
determines how much,
well, they
he
haven't
thinks.
changed though, I guess that's kind of what Mark's saying.
They haven't changed, or they have?
From years past, I don't think. I think this is, Eric, is that historical?
That's historical,
Well, it's a question we can, look at. Maybe it's something that, I was gonna say, maybe it's
Yeah,
something
but then
the
it's gotta go
finance committee.
somewhere else, you know?
Finance committee.
Right? It's like,
It's like, I toss it from one place to another, right, and still continue to deal with it. I don't know, what's your thought, Eric?
I think it's a proper conversation to have.
Yeah,
I think if we can continue the conversation as we move through the next budget cycle, mainly because if we pull it out of here, have it somewhere else, and the general fund budget's already been approved,
A
so.
little late in the game here, but
Yeah.
I might say the same thing about the 10% for clerk and deputy treasurer and 10% of deputy clerk, although I'm not so sure about that one, but if you allocate those based on their activity and then look at the revenue of the different utilities, the sewer and water utilities are like 2.1 million annual revenues, and the stormwater utilities only 500,000. So that's pretty big allocation off, I think. But
and maybe
time to change it.
maybe a reallocation, well, of course, that between the different utilities, maybe the totals might be the same, but I think what you're saying is, water utility might be allocated more
I think that's.
and use a
where-
revenue allocator, but for this budget, and then it would make the general fund whole, but it.
Well,
would be-
right, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that's where the conversation would start, I guess, is it properly allocated between the utilities? And right now, we can't do anything other
No.
than within the utilities.
Right.
Because I can look at the assistant director of public works at 7.5%, and he spends more time than that. So, yeah, there could be a balance in there to where maybe he doesn't come down, but the other one would go up.
Because I know we went through that with the parks, assistant parks director and some of those other things. We did look at a reallocation
Yeah.
associated with that too, so, maybe that's, I probably
Well-
agree, it's something we should look at.
Is it something that for this year you want to look at just the
No,
utility allocation or wait till this shakes out? Do you want to
Do
look
it
at?
after we get this budget and raise in place for the upcoming year and
Yeah, and
look at
then
it
look at
for
it.
the following one.
Okay, all right, great. If nothing else, I guess I'd still like to say I would prefer this not to go to the board on Monday night. I'd prefer we be able to look at it, and given we're not going to meet again until, when do we meet now? December what?
December.
The board can approve both the budgets and rate increases on the same night,
15th.
I think.
They can,
Yes.
yeah. Especially if they tie up.
Well, yeah, they-
It's kind of hard to approve
They would-
a budget with a rate increase without approving.
Right. Well, you do that one before you do the rate
Yeah.
increase.
It'd be the 15th of December.
Then when would our board meeting be after that?
15th?
Is there anything right there handy? This one of the ones that I gotta go with the other
You gotta
one?
go the opposite way on that
Ah,
one.
shoot.
No,
I'll
But
just
this
take
is-
it down. Oh, you've got it already?
So December, November 23rd.
Are we
and
meeting on
then
the
the
21st?
7th and the 21st.
You wanna do that, bring it back for this meeting for the 15th and put it on the board agenda for the 21st?
I know we've gone through I guess from my stand, I think everything seems reasonable on the operating. It'd be more on the capital side. We haven't really touched on that. If we could at least go through, I can look at this stuff and I'm not gonna know any different a month from now.
Yeah, right.
Anybody else gonna know any different a month from now?
No.
No?
And like I said, the only concern I have is we haven't touched on some of the capital, and I'd like to go through that, because that's really the,
Well, let's go through it now.
if that's okay, I mean.
Fine with me, if everybody else is okay with it. I don't know, let me get to that. Let's see.
'Cause that's where all the old question marks used to be.
This, what we have in front of us is basically the operations
Yeah,
budget.
this one.
The capital budget in terms of, general fund has been already approved. In terms of anything that would be a project here, the board would approve through the debt issuance during the next year. So the only thing that we're really reviewing now is what would the interest payments be for the projects that we borrowed for in 2015 and 2016 till an interest-only payment. Again, this doesn't really include the capital. I didn't prepare that. What I prepared was the general operating
Mhm.
fund for this point in time. So
So,
like what
with
we're
what
looking
you-
at in December, identify the projects both in 2016 that have already been approved and would be asking for approval that we can prepare
Okay,
for you.
maybe that's, again, typically we approve the operating
Mhm.
budgets and then the capital budgets too. Would we be doing that next time? And
Yeah.
would we see that ahead of time, or, again, the detailed breakdown? Just,
Depends on what we can generate, but yeah, we can.
okay.
You just
'Cause
want to
for-
see a list of the
I'd
projects
like to
that
see
are.
Or discussion.
typically,
Down
and have a
the-
discussion on it, because typically we do, review and approve the capital budgets and everything else. Now,
Yeah, I think.
You
I'm
know.
trying to remember.
Affects the rates.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because the
Well-
capital, what we can do for the capital is, that's we get that from Brian. He's got the breakdown and all that.
Well, we
You know,
already
Yeah,
have it.
yeah.
We've already
Earlier.
reviewed the capital sheets.
I mean, we can,
So your equipment, your leases, the projects, that's all there. It's just a matter of separating it from the general fund approved budget, breaking that down just to highlight what that is for this committee.
Well, we've had changes, last minute changes in the past, like the bike lane near Brand Field, Brand Park.
Mhm.
We should at least have another look at it.
Yeah,
before we-
okay.
Too, in the past, we've always looked at things like capital equipment, the leases versus the actual purchases too, and again, I don't know, the processes seems to have changed a little bit, that we at least review that. I mean, just because you've got the bonding authority doesn't necessarily mean the projects have to go ahead, but does the board approve those ahead of our review for
No.
an approval
No,
or
it would
or
come here
capital? Okay.
first. Yeah, it should come here
Okay.
first, exactly. So
But-
I guess what I'm hearing is we want to bring not only this, even though you might not know any more than you do now, but the capital budgets back
Yeah,
Mhm.
to, on the 15th,
I'd like to see them ahead of time. So
Yeah,
we can kind of
exactly.
go through
Mhm.
that.
ahead of time, so we're not in the same
And
situation.
now the lease, the reason you haven't seen the lease is because we're in the lease process, we're in a 3-year lease.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Well, I
so
know.
when it comes time, that's when
Yeah.
you see, and we talk about that, that portion.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're vehicles or other things too, that we're replacing vehicles then. I don't know, that's why I'd like to at least see the budget
Gotcha.
and just ask questions then. Is that something you'd email out to us at least ahead
Yeah.
of time? So
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
have it
absolutely.
Versus, you know, the mail we get.
So I think we're back to saying that we'll bring it back, including capital, on the 15th, and then take it to the board on the 21st, and you were looking.
The board's the 28th.
28th, it
Yeah.
is. Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
said 21st, didn't I? It is.
21st would be
28th is
plan
still,
commission,
yeah.
okay, it's still okay, 28th.
Mhm.
Okay, is that right? Okay. All right, we don't need any formal action on that, I don't think. We just agreed to it, so that's what will happen. So now down to staff reports. So Alan, you're on.
Well, I think we talked about most of the stuff. We did the, I don't remember if I talked about this, the inspection on the Holscher Water Tower. Did we talk about that
We
last
talked
week?
about that last
Last
time,
time.
Okay, good.
that it was going to happen.
Oh, and it did
Yep.
happen.
It did happen.
Yes, it happened. Everything looked okay. We're in good shape from that standpoint. Had 2 water main breaks because of that. It seems like whenever we take out, one of the water towers, we did. And everybody says, no, it shouldn't do that, but every time we take it out, it changes pressure in the system, we get water main breaks.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
And, from an engineering standpoint, they all say, well, that shouldn't be, but it is.
We better repair them now than in January though,
Yeah.
right?
That is
Exactly.
correct. We had one on Larson Beach, right by Walgreens, and it blew a hole in the top of the pipe, about the size of a softball. And one of the most impressive, if you can say that, water main breaks that I've ever seen, because there's one where the hole in the ground is about the size of these tables, and it's boiling out of the ground about this high. And then had another one on Exchange Street, and that one was just real minor. We just noticed water on the street, run a little bit in the curb, and it's very little, but went down there and dug it. We were fortunate that there wasn't any frost in the ground, because it was on a downhill side, and we hit it right the first time, and it was just a split in one of the seams right on the water main, so we abandoned that. But that's pretty much been it. We've been running the street sweeper on
Oh, yeah, I've seen it go by.
a daily basis. The drop-off side is being used a large amount. And one thing that I'm doing is last weekend I had an employee who was on call sit out there for 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday, alternated, and card people coming through. And he said he probably carded about 150 people and saw 3 people that weren't McFarland residents. So we've got this big concern that there's a lot of people that are using it that aren't McFarland residents, and there may be, but only
They
one
didn't
person.
come those days, huh?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
only 3, and 2 people he thinks honestly just didn't know, because they have a McFarland address, but did live in McFarland, obviously. And there's one who he's pretty sure knew that he wasn't McFarland, even though he had a McFarland address, and he got quite boisterous. So, but I'm gonna do it again this weekend too. Have a person sit out there and just card. One thing that I talked about with the Public Works Committee is at some point we probably should, if we're gonna continue down this road, maybe look at putting a card system in place or putting something in place just to help. Because if you go out there and you look at that leaf pile that we have out there, it's
tremendous.
enormous.
It's enormous, I know, I've been there. I
Would you
added
say
to
putting
it.
what in place? I didn't catch
A
that.
card, like a card system,
Oh, okay.
to where, maybe residents, they come in, they get a card, and maybe we just, for the card, they pay just a small stipend, $5, just for the cost of the card and that. And then you come through, you go out to a card reader, read it, the gate opens up, you go in a dump, and you come back out.
So the gate would open and shut
Mhm.
based on that, as now it's
Exactly.
just.
Now it opens at
Open.
7 in
Yeah.
the morning and closes at 7 at night.
Yeah.
7 days a week. So
Yeah, I think.
something we might need to look at, because we're in a 3-year contract, if you recall, with Barnes, to service the drop-off site. We're the 2nd year into it, obviously next year is the last, so we'll be going out for bids again. And, I don't know, just something to think about,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I think that could be,
I agree.
a train that could really get away from us really quick.
It's still scheduled to close on December 1?
Yes,
Okay.
we'd say,
Or finish up my yard then, I guess.
we're watching you. You come in, we're watching.
Bring your
We're
license
put
with
you
you.
down.
I still have leaves too, so.
Yeah. And that's about it. We're making preparations for the next season.
Doesn't it open back up for Christmas tree drop off or something?
Yes.
too?
Yeah, the weekend
say.
after Christmas, and it closes, it's open about 2 or 3 weeks. I don't remember exactly what the final date is, but it's open for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then we close. And what we're gonna do this year, different than last year, is when we close it, if somebody came up with tough luck. Now, if somebody comes up with a Christmas tree, if they come in and show us that they're a McFarland resident, we'll just open it, let them go down.
Hmm.
You
That's
know?
nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Riches.
Anything else? Okay, need a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.